Love that conquered all, the heart-wrenching truth about us that no one can forget. In the small town of Evergreen, love spiraled into chaos, like a summer storm erupting from a clear blue sky. Secrets lay hidden beneath smiles, ready to crack open the very foundations of every heart. The whispers of regret echoed down the quiet streets filled with gargantuan oaks, their branches twisted like the fates of the townspeople. No one could escape the truth that awaited them. No one. Savannah and Jake, a couple that seemed perfect on the surface, painted their world with radiant colors, at least that's what everyone believed. But behind their closed doors lurked shadows that clung like fog. Late-night arguments rose through the house like smoke, swirling and suffocating the air. Just last week, the neighbors heard a shattering crash that made them flinch, but when they peered out their curtains, all they saw was a glimmering, charmed couple, hand in hand, strolling in the moonlight. Yet Savannah had recently noticed strange things: Jake's late-night phone calls, whispering secrets into the thin air. The tightness in her chest grew more familiar, like a worn-out sweater that screamed of betrayal. The scent of perfume that wasn't hers lingered in his car. Just a hint, really. Was it paranoia, or was she brushing up against reality? The knot in her stomach twisted tighter every day. It was a fight against time and invisible forces threatening to engulf her. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the sun hung low, painting the town in hues of orange and crimson, Savannah's heart raced. The truth gnawed at her, pulled her, as if the universe conspired against her hopes. On that fateful night, she decided to follow Jake, adrenaline coursing through her veins like fire. The streets echoed with uncertainty as shadows danced around her. Where would this path lead? What evening revelations awaited her? Would she uncover love that had conquered all, or the heart-wrenching truth that could destroy everything? The enigmatic silence loomed, whispering secrets that no one was ready to confront. The headlights of Jake's car sliced through the night, illuminating the slick pavement as Savannah hurriedly dashed behind the nearest tree. Her heart thundered in her chest, louder than the revving engine, drowning out every rational thought. Would she see what she hoped to see? Or would the night unravel her heart completely? She peered through the darkness, her breath catching in her throat as Jake stepped out onto the asphalt with someone else. A woman. Tall, brunette, with quick laughter that floated out into the chilly air like a mocking song. Jake's hand brushed against hers, lingering a moment longer than any friendly touch should. A lump formed in Savannah's throat, choking her on disbelief. It was happening. The betrayal she feared was alive and breathing in front of her. Why does he need to keep this a secret? She thought, as panic rose like waves crashing against a rocky shore. The cool breeze clawed at her skin, an unwanted companion that reminded her of how exposed she felt. Each laugh turned into a dagger, twisting into her gut, sharpening the pain, slicing deeper into her heart. In that instant, the illusion of their perfect life shattered. Savannah's instincts urged her to confront them, but fear held her back, chaining her in place. Instead, she was a spectator at her own heartbreak. As the woman leaned closer to Jake, whispering something that piqued his interest, Savannah could scarcely breathe. She felt the edges of reality fray, transforming into something unrecognizable. Then suddenly, a shadow passed over her, accompanied by a flicker of movement nearby. Whirling around, she came face to face with Rick, her neighbor and an old friend. His expression was one of shock, a mix of surprise and concern etched across his face. "What are you doing out here, Save?" he hissed, his voice barely above a whisper. She caught the glimmer of his eyes wide with disbelief, and an urge to explain poured forth. "It's Jake. He's with someone else. I need to see." Rick's brow furrowed as he shifted his weight. "You can't just confront him like this. It's dangerous. Dangerous? She scoffed, fierce protectiveness igniting in her chest. What could be more dangerous than lying? Her anger surged as she watched Jake pull the woman closer, laughter echoing in the night. Savannah, please. He tugged at her arm just as Jake's laughter spilled into the air again, the sound sharp enough to cut. You need to think rationally. Let us talk about this first, but it was too late. Savannah's resolve had hardened into something fierce, a clarity blooming amid the chaos. She broke away from Rick's grip, her mind racing against time. She would not hesitate any longer. Gathering her courage, she stepped forward, her heart pounding, each beat like the war drums of truth calling her to battle. She was done with shadows and whispers. It was time to reveal Jake for who he really was. Then it hit her, the sudden realization that the woman wasn't just any stranger. She recognized that face. Memories flickered back like an old film reel. Her stomach twisted. This betrayal reached deeper than she ever imagined. The space between reality and perception crumbled, leaving Savannah standing on shaky ground, teetering on the edge of an abyss. Would she shatter entirely or find the strength to confront the truth? Savannah, don't. Rick called out again, but she was already charging into the light. The world around her faded, all she could focus on was the truth, no matter how painful it might be, and just before she could speak, Jake turned. His eyes locked with hers, a flash of recognition pierced through the night. It was the moment everything would change, but still, a question lingered. What would happen when the truth finally broke through? Savannah froze. Jake's expression morphed from shock to a careful mask, concealing whatever chaos churned within. The woman beside him paused, her laughter fading, replaced with an uncomfortable stillness. Savannah's thoughts spiraled, each question more frantic than the last. How long? Why her? The night air felt heavy, stretching time into something unbearably thick. With every ounce of courage she summoned, the words painted themselves across her mind like a bitter script she had rehearsed 1,000 times but never thought she'd actually perform. Jake. What's going on? Something shifted in his demeanor. His gaze darted briefly to the woman before settling back on Savannah. Savannah, I don't you dare Savannah me. She shouted, her voice slicing through the chilly silence. The tension crackled like a storm brewing overhead. She stepped closer, every inch forward, a battle against her own racing heart. You owe me an explanation. The woman looked at Jake, confused and clearly being drawn into this confrontation against her will. Maybe we should go, she trailed off, but Jake held up a hand. No. We need to talk. His voice was firm, but the vulnerability flickering in his eyes betrayed him. He took a step towards Savannah. Just give me a moment to explain. Rick lingered in the backdrop, torn between wanting to intervene and the need to stay out of it. He shifted nervously, hands in pockets, like a spectator unsure of how to react to this unfolding drama. Savannah felt fire in her veins. I've seen you with her. How could you do this to me, Jake? After everything we built together? We built a lot, but he hesitated, wisdom battling desire. But I wasn't sure how to tell you about her. Her name is Claire, the woman chimed in, desperation shining in her eyes as if she were the one who needed to apologize. Claire? Savannah echoed, the name landing like a weight on her chest. You've been dating her behind my back? Is this what we are to you? A joke? Claire shot Jake a panicked glance, as if she were waiting for him to sort this mess out. In that moment, Savannah felt a flicker of sympathy for her. This was Jake's betrayal, not Claire's. Yet, anger clouded her judgment, robbing her of compassion. Savannah, please. You have to understand, Jake continued, his voice cracking. It's not what you think. I was trying to figure out how to tell you all this time. You were stringing me along. Every promise, every sweet word, you were with her. Savannah could feel the pulse of humiliation creeping up her neck. Her chest tightened with regret, not for what she was doing but for the inevitable fallout. Which of them did Jake truly love? The night felt alive with mingled emotions, hurt, betrayal, but beneath it all, a thread of dread that clawed at her core. She realized this confrontation was more than just about love, it was a validation of her worth twisted into betrayal. Is she really worth all this? She demanded, refusing to yield to the self-pity creeping in. Jake opened his mouth, ready to defend the truth she thought she knew, but shut it back like a man closing off his very soul. Silence engulfed them, heavy and cold. What's it going to be, Jake? Savannah pressed, breaths coming in shaky bursts. Either choose me, or choose her. But you can't drape me in this charade anymore. Her heart raced as the question lingered in the air, taunting her with potential answers she didn't want to hear. Would he choose her, or would she be left in the shadows of the truth he had hidden for too long? But before Jake could respond, the sound of sirens echoed ominously in the distance, shattering their tension. Savannah glanced back towards Rick, who was now wide-eyed, and realized this fallout was about to spiral even further than they could have anticipated. What else was lurking in the darkness, just waiting to emerge? Savannah's heart raced faster as the sirens grew louder, slicing through the raw tension hanging in the air. She instinctively turned her back to Jake and Claire, needing a moment to breathe. Dread coursed through her like icy water. What could possibly be unfolding just beyond the thin fabric of this confrontation? Savannah. Jake's voice reached out, desperate and strain-filled. We can talk about this. Right now? You think this is a good time? She shot back, fists tightening at her sides. She was struggling to rein in her emotions, a tempest of fury, hurt, and confusion coursing through her. The distant wail of the sirens grew closer, merging with her chaotic thoughts. Were they coming for Jake? For her? Her knees felt weak as the realization struck. Rick stepped forward, his brow furrowed with concern, but he halted when Savannah shot him a glance that asked him to stay put. This was between her and Jake. Why didn't you just tell me? She whispered, a crack in her voice that she desperately tried to mask with anger. Why let me walk around believing I was the only one? Jake opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. He seemed momentarily paralyzed, powerless against the whirlwind of emotion he had created. The sight of him floundering pushed Savannah's fury to a fever pitch. Before she could push him to speak, a voice pierced through the night's chaos. Hey! You there? Step away from her. A uniformed officer emerged from the shadows, the blue and red lights rotating in an unsettling strobe above him. The intensity of the moment shattered Savannah's focus, yanking her breath away. She hadn't seen this coming. Officer, where Jake began, but the officer waved him off. Step back. Now. Panic flooded Savannah's mind. Something deep-seated inside her screamed to run, to get as far away from Jake and the chaos surrounding them as she could. But she felt trapped, every glance at Jake ignited another round of anger. And Claire, now standing frozen, mouth slightly agape, those eyes still surfacing with confusion, was a reminder of everything she had lost. Savannah, please. Jake begged, desperation clawing at him. It's not about her. It's about us. The officer approached slowly, eyes narrowed and suspicious. What's going on here? He looked between the three of them, assessing the scene with the precision of a hawk. Savannah glanced at Claire, who seemed equally bewildered by Jake's admission and the whole situation. We were just— Savannah swallowed. It's complicated. Complicated, huh? The officer crossed his arms, clearly not buying the vague answer. Looks more like a domestic dispute if you ask me. What? Rick finally chimed in, eyes darting between the officer and the two women. No, that's not what this is. Then let me hear it, pal. The officer's gaze chilled. Savannah could feel the implications crashing around her. She had never considered how a simple love triangle could spiral into something so ugly that it attracted the attention of law enforcement. The sirens grew nearer, sinister, wrapping the air in a heavy cloak of dread. She searched Jake's face, hoping to find something that would give her clarity. Instead, she saw a man teetering on the edge of a precipice, ready to fall, and then it happened. The sound of shattering glass erupted nearby, followed by shouting. Savannah's eyes widened as she turned toward the commotion. What was that? She asked, disoriented by the shift in the atmosphere. The officer's attention snapped to the sound, his instincts kicking in. Stay here, he commanded, suddenly focused on the developing chaos. The moment hung heavy, a feeling of impending doom suffocating them all. As Savannah stood there, reality fractured into sharp pieces. Her life, her love, her trust, everything dangled in the air like a fragile thread waiting to snap. What fresh hell was unfolding in the darkness, and would they even make it out of this night unscathed? An electric chill raced down Savannah's spine as she grasped for the answers. The sirens pulsed relentlessly, drawing ever closer. The shout was followed by a deep rumble, then the unmistakable sound of footsteps pounding against the pavement. Savannah's heart was in her throat as adrenaline coursed through her veins, igniting an instinctive fight-or-flight response. This was no longer just a love triangle, it felt like a storm was brewing. The officer moved forward, hands poised, ready to react to whatever threat loomed nearby. Everyone stay calm, he warned, his voice steady but the tension in his stance betraying him. I need to know what's going on before this gets out of hand. As if in response to his words, a figure emerged from the shadows, disheveled and wild-eyed. The man, a neighbor, Savannah recognized, was shouting incoherently. They're coming! They're coming! Savannah's skin prickled at the frantic energy rolling off him. Who's coming? She called out, but the man didn't seem to register her question. His focus was on the officer. Get inside. Lock your doors. Now. He waved his arms frantically, urging an urgency that was infectious. Savannah. Claire's panicked whisper broke through, pulling Savannah back to the moment. She turned to see Claire's face pale with fear, the bright lights of the police car casting sharp shadows. What's happening? I don't know. Savannah replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Anger mixed with fear gave her body an uneasy tremor. She didn't have an answer for Claire or even for herself. Jake stepped closer, eyes darting between her and the officer. We need to just tell him the truth. He can help us. No. Savannah snapped, a flash of anger igniting her courage. You think that will help? We're already caught up in something too dangerous. I won't put us at risk just because you can't be honest about what we are. The officer was now focused entirely on the man, demanding answers. What did you see? They're here. They're after him. The neighbor pointed wildly back toward the street where muffled voices were growing louder. And if they catch you out here they'll do worse than what's already happened. The hairs on Savannah's neck stood up as chilling images began to race through her mind. Who was coming? What did they want? She felt the fragile fabric of reality stretching thin, warping beneath the weight of the moment. Rick moved closer to Claire, shielding her slightly as if instinctively aware that a threat was closing in. We should get inside, he murmured to her but didn't take his eyes off Savannah. No, Savannah started, but before she could finish, another sound, this time a loud thud against the ground, interrupted her. Stay inside. The officer barked, his voice stern as he prepared to confront the emerging chaos, stepping away from the group. Savannah felt panic clawing at her throat. Jake, what do we do? Trust me, he said, a flicker of determination sparking behind his eyes. We can't leave this place yet. There's something more going on here, and I'll explain everything, just give me a chance. Before Savannah could respond, the figure from the street stepped into view, a dark silhouette against the flashing lights. Her heart dropped as she recognized the face, a haunted expression mirrored in the severe lines of his features. Savannah. He called out. It was Tommy, a ghost from her past she had never expected to confront again. The officer was now standing at the edge of the tension, his hand on his weapon, assessing the threat that seemed to be rising in waves. Savannah felt the ground beneath her tremble as uneasy familiarity washed over her. What had he done? What secrets was Tommy hiding? There was too much at stake, and her world was about to tilt again. Savannah, listen to me. I need to tell you why I came back, Tommy said, desperation etched in his voice, but before she could process another word, a fierce shriek echoed through the night, shattering the already fragile air. It was a warning cry, and it sent a chill of dread through her very core. As uncertainty loomed like a shadow, Savannah stood paralyzed by the weight of nostalgia clashing with the threat looming behind her. Would the truths resurfacing from the depths of her past shatter the fragile hold she had on her present or set her free from the chaos that engulfed her? Her breath hitched as she waited for Tommy's next words. The air vibrated with unspoken tension, and she knew everything was about to change again. The shriek echoed, drowning out everything. Savannah's heart raced, pounding against her ribcage as if trying to break free. Fear tightened her throat, pressing down hard. Tommy's eyes were wide, almost pleading. She could feel the walls closing in around her, the chaos of the night pressing closer. What do you mean, why you came back? She managed to stammer, trying to cut through the frenzy. Because it's not safe, Tommy replied, urgency dripping from every word. They know about us. About what happened. They're coming for you too. The worry in his voice sent a jolt of icy dread through her. She glanced at Jake and Claire, their faces drawn, mirroring the same fear she felt. What had she gotten herself into? I don't understand. Claire shouted from behind, trying to make sense of the madness. What do you mean they know? Before Tommy could respond, a shadow flitted at the edge of the streetlights, followed by a sharp clank, a sound that seemed to echo like a gunshot in the stillness. The officer's gaze moved towards the sound, his body tense, a protective instinct kicking in. Get inside, now. He yelled at the group. Savannah could see the urgency on the officer's face. He was scared too, and that fueled her own panic. Tommy. You need to tell me what's going on. Savannah pleaded, taking a step forward, feeling a mix of anger and desperation. Why did you come back? What did you bring with you? Savannah, please. He cried, his voice trembling. There's no time. I wish I could explain everything, but trust me, I was always trying to protect you, but I messed up. It's my fault. Your fault? The words flew out before she could stop herself. Your fault? You disappeared, Tommy. Just when I needed you most. Savannah, he began, but the sound of rapid footsteps interrupted him. More figures were now visible, emerging from the darkness, their intentions unreadable, their silhouettes moving as shadows beneath the streetlights. A knot tightened in Savannah's stomach as the officer stepped in front of her, positioning himself like a shield. Keep your distance. He warned, aiming his flashlight at the newcomers. Savannah felt frozen, both by fear and anger. Why was Tommy back? Why now? Just as she processed the questions swirling in her mind, another figure emerged from behind the crowd, a woman, dark-haired and fierce with a look that sparked recognition. Tommy! She shouted. You shouldn't have come back here. What do you want, Elena? Tommy called out, desperation filling his voice. I'm not leaving her again. Not like last time. Savannah's mind raced. Last time? What had happened? And why were they all involved in this deadly cat-and-mouse game? The tension in the air throbbed like a heartbeat. The woman named Elena stepped closer, her eyes narrowing, conveying venomous certainty. You have no idea what you've unleashed. And if you think you can just bring her into this, you're putting her life at risk. Savannah felt a rush of heat flood her cheeks. She didn't want to be a pawn in someone else's game. Yet the fear was palpable, punctuating every moment. Enough. The officer shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. You're all under my protection. If anyone is a threat, I won't hesitate to act. Savannah grabbed Jake's hand tightly, feeling the sweat mingle with his palm. He looked at her, full of unspoken questions and a hint of admiration. It scared her how much she wanted to hold on to him, to ground herself in this swirling chaos. "What if we just leave?" Jake suggested, barely above a whisper. "We can drive away, right now." But before Savannah could answer, the tension snapped like a taut wire. The group of shadowy figures moved closer, and she saw the glint of something metallic in the moonlight. A weapon? Or something worse? Tommy's expression darkened, all regret melting away to one pure instinct, protectiveness. "Don't you dare turn your back. They will come for you," he warned urgently, looking straight into Savannah's eyes. "And this time, I won't be able to save you." The night descended heavier than before, suffocating. As the looming threat neared, tightening around them, Savannah's world began to spiral. Who were these people? What secrets were buried deep within her past? And as she braced herself for whatever was coming, one thought clung to her mind: would the truth set her free or seal her fate once and for all? In that moment, the ground beneath her seemed to shift, shaking out the very foundations of her reality. And she knew one thing for certain: the war was just beginning. Savannah's pulse quickened as the dark figures moved closer, the shadowed menace flickering just out of reach of the streetlight's glow. Fear rippled through her, gnawing at her insides like a hungry beast. She felt Jake's hand in hers, warm yet damp with anxiety. "What do we do?" Claire's voice shook, a whisper laced with panic. They were all trapped, standing on the precipice of something terrible. Tommy took a step away from them, drawing a line in the sand with his body. "You have to trust me," he said, his eyes darting back and forth between Elena and the advancing shadows. "I'll explain everything after this. Just stay behind me." But Savannah felt a surge of anger rushing through her. "No. You brought this on us." She shot back, her voice rising above the tension. "If we're in danger, you have to tell us what we're dealing with." Elena scoffed, a sharp laugh cutting through the impending chaos. "You really think you can handle the truth?" she retorted, stepping forward, eyes blazing. "You think you're safe? You are the bait in a much larger game." Savannah's head spun. Bait? Was she a target? What had she unwittingly re-entered? Details of the past scrambled inside her mind, connecting dots she hadn't even known existed. "We need to move. Now." The officer's voice cut through the confusion, punctuated by the metallic sound that had set them on edge earlier. Suddenly, the shadows lunged forward, and without hesitation, the officer grasped his radio, shouting commands that seemed to blend into the chaos enveloping them. "Go," Tommy urged, the raw desperation in his tone slicing through the air like a knife. "Get to the car. I'll hold them off." "No," Savannah shouted, her heartbeat echoing her fear. "You can't do this alone. They won't stop until they have you," he insisted fiercely. "I won't let them take you again." The darkness surged like a wave, spilling across the pavement with chilling determination. Someone surged ahead, a dark figure shrouded in shadows, lunging straight toward Tommy. The officer swung his flashlight, illuminating the attacker's face, a grotesque mask of malice and need. Savannah's breath came in short gasps. Every instinct screamed for her to run, yet all she could do was stand rooted to the spot. Jake pulled her back slightly, the grip of his hand firm against hers. "We need to go," he urged again, his eyes flicking between her and Tommy, the fight unfolding just ahead. With a final look at Tommy, rage and regret coiling in her chest, Savannah tore herself away and sprinted toward the waiting car, Claire and Jake close behind her. Darkness wrapped its tendrils around them, the chaos of shouts and struggles fading into a blur behind, but even as they ran, a gnawing sense of betrayal burrowed deep. What did he mean? What happened before? She stole a glance back, heart screaming for Tommy as shadows clashed with the officer's commands. The thud of footsteps echoed behind them, chasing them like phantoms. The engine of the car screeched to life just as they reached it, Claire scrambling to get in the driver's seat, determination on her face, but uncertainty in her eyes. Go, 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 go. Savannah shouted, her heart racing as her breath hitched. They threw themselves into the back seat, and Claire slammed down on the accelerator, tires screeching against the asphalt as they dashed away into the night, but as the car sped off, leaving the chaos behind, the oppressive weight of fear still nestled close. What had just been set into motion? And if Tommy was willing to risk everything, what dark truth connected them all that couldn't stay hidden any longer? Savannah's hand clenched around Jake's as they sped away, adrenaline coursing through her veins. They had escaped. For now. But the question loomed ominously in her mind, chilling her to the bone. Had they really outrun the danger, or had they just delayed the inevitable? Elena's parting words echoed in her mind, "You are the bait." And amidst the rising panic, she understood that if the truth was indeed lurking just beyond their reach, it might be far more dangerous than she could ever imagine. What would happen when the truth finally caught up with them? The engine roared, drowning out the remnants of chaos left behind. Savannah squeezed Jake's hand tighter, her heart galloping like a wild horse. Every jolt of the car echoed the turmoil within her, a desperate need to know, to understand. Claire's face was a mask of concentration, her brow furrowed as she steered them through the empty streets, the moonlight casting eerie shadows on the pavement. Did we lose them? Claire's voice wavered, each word dragged by fear. I don't know, Jake murmured, his eyes darting to the rearview mirror as if expecting the darkness to surge back at any moment. But we need to keep moving fast. Savannah's mind raced back to Tommy's last words. What did he mean by, "They won't stop until they have you"? The weight of those words pressed on her chest, heavy and suffocating. The look in his eyes, was it fear, or resolve? Why would he put himself in danger for her? Questions bubbled to the surface, but terror swallowed them whole. What happened at the warehouse? Savannah asked suddenly, her breath shaky. Why are we being hunted? Claire glanced at her in the rearview, the light catching the glint of panic in her eyes. I don't know, save. But whatever it is, we're not safe yet. We need to figure this out before they come back. The car sped through the darkened streets, every corner turned felt like an escape from a nightmare, but the knots in Savannah's stomach tightened as they drove further into the unknown. She couldn't shake the feeling that the danger wasn't far behind. Just then, a chilling sound sliced through the heavy silence, an eerie echo of a siren blaring in the distance. They might be coming after us. Claire, speed up. Jake urged. Savannah held her breath, a rush of images hitting her like a tidal wave. Tommy standing his ground, the grotesque face of the attacker, and Elena's sinister laughter ringing in her ears. They needed answers. Panic threatened to claw its way back in. Claire slammed on the brakes as a figure stepped out from the shadows of a narrow alley, the headlights illuminating a tall silhouette. Savannah gasped as she recognized the glint of a badge, a police officer, but somehow, that only added more tension to the situation. Get down! Claire shouted, but it was too late. The officer raised his hand, signaling them to stop, his face caught in the cruel light of the headlights. What are you doing? The officer barked, eyes wide, scanning the inside of the car with suspicion. You need to turn around. There's danger ahead. Savannah's heart plummeted. You're the one who should be aware of the danger, not us. She shot back, her voice breaking under pressure. We're being hunted. We need help. The officer stepped closer, his eyes narrowing as if assessing the truth of her words. For a moment, Savannah thought he might actually understand. Then, without warning, his expression shifted. You shouldn't have come back here. He snapped, taking another step forward. Back? What do you know? Jake yelled, frustration leaking into his voice. The officer hesitated, a flicker of something, fear? Recognition? Flashed across his face. You need to leave now. It's not safe. There are things you don't know. Just drive away. Savannah's breath quickened as the urgency cascaded over her. What are you talking about? Who's after us? But before he could answer, the ground beneath them shook, a low rumble reverberated, and dark figures emerged from the alley, faces masked in shadows and cold purpose. Drive, Claire! Savannah screamed, adrenaline igniting her voice. Now! The officer's eyes widened in horror as he stepped back, and Claire obeyed, whipping the wheel to speed away from the looming threat. But as they tore down the road, the truth hung thick in the air, a dangerous, tangled web woven around them. What did the officer know? Why was he so terrified? Savannah turned to Jake, confusion battling with fear. They had just escaped one danger, but what had they driven straight into? And just as the thought settled in, Savannah felt the car lurch violently. There was too much weight outside. Something or someone was climbing onto the roof. The scream that escaped her was swallowed by the roaring engine. What had they just invited into their lives? Savannah's scream echoed in her ears as the car jolted again, the sound of scratching metal grinding against the roof sending shudders through her spine. Get it off! Get it off, she yelled, unbuckling her seatbelt, her heart racing as she braced herself for whatever might come next. Hold on tight! Claire shouted, her voice strained as she swerved. The car veered to the left and then to the right, tires screeching, desperately trying to throw off the weight above them. Savannah leaned toward the window, breathless. Just then, she caught a glimpse of a dark figure scrambling, its shadow stretching across the moonlit pavement. It was hard to tell what she was seeing, a person. An animal? Whatever it was gaining ground. Claire! You have to go faster. Jake's voice was thick with urgency. We can't let them catch us. The engine roared as they accelerated, but the figure seemed undeterred, keeping pace with them, a predator hunting its prey. With each bump, Savannah felt as if the roof would collapse under the immense pressure. Panic flooded her thoughts. She couldn't let fear take over. They needed a plan. Out of desperation, she reached into the back seat and grabbed the baseball bat they had stashed there. Instinct kicked in, she needed to act. Gripping the bat tightly, she swung open the door just enough to see the figure wrestling with the car's edges. Savannah, what are you doing? Jake shouted. Get back inside. Ignoring him, Savannah leaned out, aiming her bat at the shadowy figure. It was then she caught a chilling glimpse of a masked face, eyes wide with intent. Rage and fear coursed through her. She swung with all her might, the bat connected with a sickening thud, and the figure let out a primal scream. It stumbled back but regained its balance too quickly. Savannah felt both triumph and dread settle in her gut. Who were they up against? Suddenly, the attacker lunged toward her, catching her wrist in a vice-like grip. You don't understand, he shouted, voice muffled by the mask. You're in over your head. Savannah's pulse quickened. Fear merged with confusion. Let go of me, she cried, pulling back. But before she could break free, Jake launched himself out of the passenger seat, tackling the figure. The weight on the roof shifted violently, and the attacker lost his grip, falling back with Jake's momentum. Turn the car! Jake yelled, shoving the figure away. Claire's foot pressed harder on the gas. The car lurched, missing the corner of the street. In the rear view, Savannah caught a moment of the attacker scrambling to his feet, rage in his eyes, and in his hand a glint of metal. We have to end this, Savannah shouted, but Claire's focus was unwavering. She swerved onto a dimly lit side road, one that veered away from the chaos of the main streets. What now? Claire panted, eyes darting to the rearview mirror. Just keep driving, Jake replied, breathless but composed. But we can't stop until we know we're safe. Savannah met Jake's gaze, the worry in his eyes now mingling with something else, determination. We need to know why they're after us. Why did Tommy say they won't stop? Everyone we care about is in danger, Jake said, his voice low, filled with gravity. We need to figure out what's really going on before it's too late. Claire turned sharply onto another street, the headlights cutting through the dark. A tension filled the air, a feeling that whatever was chasing them was still lurking just beyond the shadows. As they drove deeper into the unknown, each twist of the road seemed to pull them closer to a truth they weren't prepared to face. Savannah leaned back, feeling the weight of the night close in around them, her heart pounding as fear tangled with a chilling curiosity. Just then, a familiar sound reached her ears, a low growl, vibrating through the air, sending icy tendrils of fear crawling down her spine. Something was following them, lurking in the darkness, and she could sense it growing closer with every heartbeat. What kind of nightmare had they stumbled into? And would they have the courage to confront it? Savannah's heart raced like a wild stallion, pounding against her ribs as they surged deeper into the night. Shadows danced just beyond the reach of the headlights, mocking her with their looming presence. They needed to figure out what was happening. What had Tommy dragged them into with his hasty return? "Claire, take the next left. We can't keep driving aimlessly," she urged, adrenaline pumping through her veins. They needed a strategy. They had barely escaped the threat on the roof of the car, but how much longer could they outrun whatever else was out there? "I see a parking lot." Claire's face was tense but determined, focusing on the road ahead. "If we take cover there, maybe we can figure things out." Savannah clenched Jake's hand tighter, feeling the warmth and strength in his grip, a lifeline amidst the chaos. "We have to come up with a plan," she said, looking from Jake to Claire, their faces drawn with anxiety. "Once we're settled, let us think about what Tommy meant. We cannot let fear control us." As they pulled into the dimly lit parking lot, the reality of their predicament washed over her like ice water. The fading lights cast long shadows, and the oppressive silence felt heavy, pressing in on them with every breath. Claire parked under a flickering street lamp, nervously turning off the engine. "What the hell happened tonight?" Jake demanded, his voice slicing through the silence like a knife. It was a question hanging in the air, one they all needed answers to. Savannah caught her breath, recalling every chaotic moment leading up to this Tommy's frantic return, Jake's betrayal not just of her but of everything they had built, the shadowy figures with a vendetta. "We need to piece together the last few hours," she said, drawing in a deep, shaky breath. "Tommy said they're coming for you. What does that even mean? Is this about that warehouse?" Claire asked hesitantly, her eyes darting around the lot as if expecting someone to leap from the shadows. "Yes," Jake said, his tone firm. "We have to confront whatever truth that holds. It's not just about us anymore, it's about everyone involved. We need to trust each other this time, all the way." Savannah nodded, her heart pounding not just with fear but a dawning realization. Each twist and turn of her life had led her to this moment. The complexity of love and betrayal, the shadows reaching back into her past, it all pointed toward one thing: clarity through chaos. If we don't face it together, we can't escape. Just then, a noise interrupted their deliberation. A rustle echoed through the parking lot, sending a chill racing down Savannah's spine. She tensed as all three of them leaned toward the dark where the noise stemmed. "Did you hear that?" Claire whispered, panic rising in her voice again. "Shoo." Jake hushed, eyes narrowing, scanning the surroundings. The air felt electric, charged with a sense of urgency that threatened to break loose. Shadows crept closer, a sense of danger lurking just outside their view. From the corner of her eye, Savannah noticed a silhouette emerging from behind a nearby car. Her heart dropped, recognition settling in. Tommy stepped into the light, his face marked with urgency and desperation. "You all need to leave. Now," he shouted, his voice strained as if the night bore down too heavy on him. "Tommy!" Savannah cried, her breath hitching at the sight of his familiar face. "What are you doing here? You said we were in danger." "I'm trying to warn you," he pleaded, panting as he approached cautiously, glancing over his shoulder as if he expected to be chased. "They're looking for you, for all of you." "What do you know?" Savannah pressed, stepping closer, needing to break through the tension coiling around them. Speaking low, Tommy's voice faltered. Years ago, I was wrapped up in something dark, something I thought I could leave behind. I thought you were safe, but they never forget. Savannah felt a knot in her chest, memories of their past mingling with the fear in the present. Why now? Why come back? Because I couldn't let them take you again. You're the key to stopping this. Tommy's eyes darted around, panic breaking into the edges of his voice. What you don't know could kill you. Savannah felt her heart pound. This was no longer just about love and betrayal, it was about something she was tangled into, something darker than she had ever imagined. What do you mean by key? She questioned. What am I supposed to do? As the words fell from her lips, the ground beneath them trembled once again. Shadows began to swirl, figures emerging from all directions, muffled voices and urgent movements. They were coming for them. Run! Tommy yelled, propelling them forward as dark figures closed in, their outlines shrouded in malice. Savannah surged into action, fear igniting a firestorm in her chest. We have to work together, she shouted, urging Jake and Claire forward. The grip of fear tried to envelop her, but she pushed it down, fueled by the desperate need to survive. They darted toward the car while chaos roared behind the sounds of shouts, of pursuit. There was no time to look back. As they jumped into the vehicle, the realization sank in, love had indeed conquered shadows, but now they needed to face every darkness that dared to threaten them. Claire, hit the gas! Jake shouted, urgency lighting up his features. As the engine roared back to life, they could feel the danger closing in, but deep down, the roots of their connection ran deeper. If they survived this night, they could finally uncover the truth and perhaps even confront the deeper complexities of their bonds. With tires screeching, they tore out of that parking lot, vulnerability hanging in the air. But it was that vulnerability that could lead them to newfound strength. A bond that might finally become unbreakable. Savannah glanced into the rearview mirror, shadows flickering past, but they wouldn't be ghosts in the night any longer. They would confront the truth together. As they sped away into the darkened horizon, Savannah felt hope blooming amid the chaos, a flicker of light guiding them through the incoming storm. Where to now? Claire shouted, driving faster as the world outside blurred into pastels of fear and determination. Forward! Savannah roared, gripping her resolve tighter than ever before. Wherever the truth leads us. And as the darkness loomed ahead, the truth settled deep into their hearts, a promise of redemption waiting just out of reach, urging them onward into the revelation waiting to unfold. But that would be a battle for another day. If you've enjoyed the journey so far, this is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to subscribe immediately. You need to get the exclusive stories first. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Every click counts. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. I want to hear all your thoughts. Lastly, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us spread the word because true fans know how important it is to keep this community alive. Don't miss out. Join us on this adventure.